Ready to Vice with us? That's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law, and we are talking money and changes. Money,
A
and
lot of
changes. Changes, because that's the only thing that's constant in the world is change. Pretty big week. If you've missed it, and many have, because it's busy. It's Memorial, like the week before Memorial Day, and end of school years, and a lot of stuff's going on. But leagues around the country are voting to approve this settlement from these three, essentially NIL. There's so much legalese, Zach. We're going to try to consolidate this. We could talk for several hours and get into the real nitty gritty. We're going to try to go bigger picture and kind of lump it all together.
Sure.
But NIL settlement cases, hundreds, maybe thousands of plaintiffs in this big, in these cases, and the NCAA is ready to settle. And they're going to pay some of it, and schools are going to pay some of it. And what does that mean for Auburn? What does that mean for other schools going forward? We're talking about that because the SEC is expected Thursday, today, as we talk, to approve this. The Big Ten has already done it. Big Ten and the SEC are the biggest players.
Right.
So the way this is going to work, $2.8 billion in damages are going to go to former student athletes for the use of their name, image, and likeness over the next 10 years. $2.8 billion. The NCAA is going to pay 40% of that, or about $1.15 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay, so we need that reinforcement. Most of their revenue, by the way, comes not from football. Doesn't come from football. It comes from the NCAA tournament. For men's basketball tournament. All right. The individual schools are going to pay the other 60%, or about $1.65 billion. That is going to be weighted differently among your Power 5 schools, and it is Power 5 because the Pac-12 schools had to vote on this as they were before they decided that they were going to go in a bunch of different directions. So Power 5, and then 27 non-Power 5 schools, including 22 or conferences, including 22 non-FBS conferences. All right. How are we doing so far?
I think we're good. I think you're doing a great job with this so far.
The Power Conference schools, the Power 5, will take a share up to $664 million. $664 among 5 conferences. The other 27 split $990 million. So it's $326 million more, but 22 more conferences. So this is where it can start to get much more complicated. So again, we'll just use some general figures.
Okay.
If you were to break that down evenly among the 5 Power Conference schools, each one will pay about $8-something million each year over the next 10 years. Where's that coming from? Your non-Power 5 schools are going to pay about $2.5 million a year toward this settlement for the next 10 years. That's today. That's if nothing were to change. Let's also keep in mind, like a watermark in the top right corner, like that Village Vice logo up there, that we've seen it for the last 3 years. Since NIL was introduced, the landscape changes almost monthly.
Yeah.
So just as they are right now, that's a lot of money that's going to go out from each school additional. This is money they've not been likely saving for. They're not prepared today. This will go into effect summer of 25. So there's still more than a calendar year to get ready for this to go into effect. But still, what does this mean for smaller schools? What does it mean for larger schools like Auburn? They're going to take a little bit of a cut in their distribution from TV contracts to try to help offset this as well. In other words, some big changes are coming financially.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these changes financially are going to be behind the scenes stuff, budget cuts in some places and moving money around. I don't think the average fan is going to be able to notice where all of this money is coming from. Do you agree with that?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I think there are some athletic departments that won't be able to float $2 million extra a year at the really small level. Now, if we're talking about Auburn, I think they're able to float it. I think they're able to cover it clearly because revenues do continue to go up. But I don't know yet that I'm not saying that I totally disagree.
Sure.
I'm just saying I don't know that the average fan won't see it or feel it in some way.
Well, I mean, I think Auburn's in a fine spot, and maybe they'll raise prices on something, but I think a lot of this extra money is probably going to have to come from, boosters or donors, or maybe moving money around, and we'll see. But I just think the timing of this, as far as Auburn being a program that's trending up right now, we're glad it's happening now and not 2 years ago. I think that would have been catastrophic. But then you think about other programs throughout all of college football, like your lower tier current Power 4 schools. I think there's going to be some programs that do get blasted by this, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to be obvious which ones from the outside looking in to the casual fan. I don't think it's going to be obvious. I think they're going to be able to hide a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. I'm interested to see. There's also adoption of a new revenue sharing model that will add further, I think, greater costs that fans might see.
Maybe.
And this revenue sharing model is going to add an additional $22 to $25 million a year operating cost to athletic departments. Now, that's on top of what they're paying as a part of this settlement. So you've got your former student athletes that are going to benefit, and then you've got your current student athletes moving forward in a revenue share model. Now, if this starts at 22 to 25, if we've learned anything from the NIL model of the last 3 years, we know there's no chance that in 5 years it'll still be 22 to 25.
Yeah.
And it's rev share, so that's sort of different based on the size of the department, the revenue that you bring in. Like your Ohio State's going to bring in more than your Iowa State. And so the amount. There's also in this legislation wording that removes scholarship restrictions. So now you're going to have power conference schools, Auburn's one of them, who can offer as many scholarships as they can afford to offer. And now you have student athletes making the decision. All right, do I go to school A where my percentage of the revenue share is much higher, but my playing time is lower because I'm scholarship number 120.
Sure.
As opposed to school B, where I'm scholarship number 40, but my percentage of the revenue share is lower, or the pie from which I'm pulling from is smaller. Big stuff here in the summer of 2024.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll see different staffs and different programs use this in different ways. I know you were probably exaggerating a little bit, and maybe not, when you talk about a player being scholarship number, 100 and something. But realistically, we're talking probably like scholarship number like 92 or something like that. But it could be high, and I think you'll see different staffs handle that in different ways. But I think the scholarship limit thing should have gone away right when NIL rolled out. That's just me. I don't really understand. I understand the aspect of like Title IX and why it is the way that it is, but this was only a matter of time. I think that's fine. If you have the resources, especially as now college football and college athletics move more and more towards professional sports structure, it's like if you can have, a set amount of, if you can build out your staff and build out your team however you want, and you have the money to do so, I think you should have the ability to do that. I also think it's going to be interesting what percentage of the money that the players receive, how much of it comes from this rev share, and how much of it still comes from actual true, like what NIL is. So how much of it would be coming from Auburn and how much of it would still be coming from On to Victory, or if somebody does an NIL deal with Village Vice or the next round, or, whatever kind of other company. And once again, it's probably going to vary from school to school, depending on how each, program has it set up. But that is going to be interesting to see how they do that.
Because that wording is included in this, that it doesn't necessarily do away with your third-party collectives.
Which
So,
that's where the money is. Like all these $1 million deals, it's coming more so from those across the country than it is these collectives.
I wouldn't anticipate those go away or get any smaller. All this does is add more leverage for the student athlete. Now, in addition to their true name, image, and likeness responsibilities and opportunities, now they're included in revenue sharing through the athletic departments. So, again, fascinating. And does this push you a little closer to super conferences? Does it protect the idea of keeping the conference sizes as they are? There's been some terrific reporting, and really, if you really do want to dive down into the weeds more, Ross Dellinger and the group at Yahoo Sports, they've done a really nice job of
he's nailed this every step of the way.
It's been tremendous.
Yeah.
And others too, about how, your bigger conferences, the NCAA especially needs the smaller conferences and the bigger conferences, because again, their main revenue driver is the NCAA tournament. What do we love about the NCAA tournament? It's not just the Final Four. It's the fact that the 16 seed might upset the 1. The fact that the 12 seed might get to the Sweet 16 and make a run. We love the Cinderella. If there is no Cinderella, then, it's just a ball.
My question, and look, I think I've been pretty clear about this. I don't really understand why the NCAA needs to exist. Just don't fully get it. If it's just for the tournament, you're telling me schools can't come together and create a tournament. I don't know. I don't fully buy how the NCAA needs to function long term. But I think changes are about to happen. I mean, I think if these Power Four conferences really band together and kind of create something cool, maybe it allows you to treat football differently than the other sports.
Yeah. I wonder too, to go back to basketball for a second. If it's just the SEC and the Big Ten, you would watch that. You would watch it, and it would be entertaining and it would be exciting. But it wouldn't be the same as the 68 team NCAA tournament. And I wonder if you got if those 4 power conferences came together and agreed to do something like, it's still not the same because you don't have the Big East. You don't have the Atlantic 10. You got some major players in basketball that would not be a part of that. So there is something that is inclusive about the whole tournament, the big dance, as opposed to the
100%. No, we're in agreement there. My thing is is the if that's the only reason the NCAA exists,
right?
I feel like all of the conferences could just join, and it's let's agree on what we need to create a an unbiased and objective committee, and we'll hire a team to handle the planning of all of that. I don't know why you need the NCAA for that, because the TV networks are going to come. It's not like it's going to be hard to broadcast that. You know what I mean? So but I understand why the NCAA certainly wants to stick around as long as they can.
Even having to pay $1.1 billion over a 10-year period, and they feel like it's kind of a win for them, because the alternative to this was so much more. Right. The alternative to $2.8 billion was $20 billion, and that bankrupts everybody.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what's not going to bankrupt you, okay? And that is Roback. In fact, Roback wants to save you money. If you use our code VICE20 when you go to roback.com, RHOBACK, like it says on the screen, they're going to give you 20% off your first order. We're talking about stylish, comfortable polos. I got an email today that my latest Roback shipment is on the way and should be delivered to my front door today. I'm fired up about it. They have T-shirts, they have shorts, they have hoodies, they have quarter zips, which are great if it's going to be a little windy, a little cooler on the golf course, maybe. Check them out, rowback.com. You look great, you feel great. We love them, and you will too.
Happy birthday, Dylan Wade, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Is that okay? Can I throw that out there?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. The future of college football, do you think this is going to do you think each conference is going to kind of huddle up together, or do you think this is going to increase the relationship across conferences? I mean, I think we saw the importance of conferences in 2020 when we saw all the teams kind of just play teams within your conference. And we saw that, what I thought was kind of awesome 10-game season where, you just played conference opponents. Do you think it's going to, do you think we're going to see cross-pollination across the Power Four conferences, or this Core Four that they're referring to? Or do you think it's going to say, okay, well, all this rev share and all of these kind of stipulations and rules, like we're really more into it together and kind of create 4 separate leagues? What do you think is more likely, Brad?
I think the latter is more likely, because I think I think it makes sense to want to pull from the biggest pie possible. If we have, I also think that it evens. I think the SEC and the Big Ten have never been more attractive because the pie is larger, and you're competing against those leagues, and now real dollars are attached. It's not just about tradition. It's not just about geography. It's never been less about those things. I don't love that, but it's the truth. It's where we are. It's never been less about tradition and geography. There are real dollars attached to it. And so they've never been in a stronger, more leverageable position. And I wouldn't be surprised if, by the time this is a 10-year agreement, or these settlement payments are spread out over 10 years. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more conference expansion within that 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that.
Certainly doesn't feel like it's over. With all the stuff happening in the ACC, and I mean, I'd be shocked if FSU was in that conference for long term. And then if they leave, who else decides to leave with them? And I don't know who's more likely to add those teams. Like, is it the Big Ten or is it the SEC because of geography, like you just referred to? The SEC seems fine. Like, I think they're okay with where they're at, unless. And, we'll get more from Sankey in a few months at media days, but I just I don't get the feeling that they want anymore.
Didn't you think that though before, when they were at 14? Like, if we have this conversation 5 years ago, wouldn't you have said, I think the SEC's fine?
Well, that was before we even knew that this was possible, though.
Right.
Before we knew it was possible, and then they were the first to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else responded after that. And I mean, I love Sankey's messaging and all this when he's, they talked about USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten. He's like, well, people are expecting us to react, but they're reacting to us getting Texas and Oklahoma. It just took them forever. And so it's not like we need to try to keep up with the Big Ten. I think the SEC is fine the way that it is. But if they were to add teams, I think FSU would be a great fit. I think Clemson would be a great fit. I would love Georgia Tech in the SEC, and I would love Miami.
Makes sense.
Yeah, North Carolina makes sense for sure. Please keep Duke out. That'd be hilarious. But I mean, all in all, I just don't really get the feeling that they need to do a whole lot. But my full-time job, I interact and manage a lot of folks that cover college football teams all throughout the country. And I was talking to one last week, Brad, and he talked about, man, it's got to be nice having, covering an SEC team where, like, you're good. Like, what your future is. I'm not sure my team's going to be in a Power 4 conference in 2 or 3 years. In the school that he covered, I think it will be. But just the fact that, like, that's in the back of your mind. I mean, that would stink. This team that you love and you graduated from and you've covered for forever. And it's like, there's a chance that they're like not competing for something special in a decade. Like, I think it's been almost boring from the realignment standpoint, because we're Auburn, we're in the SEC, and like they may add another school or two, but it's kind of nice. Like, it's kind of nice.
Biggest issue was whether or not we get moved to the Eastern Division, if they kept that or not, and then they did away with Division.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so that it's a good place to be in. The fact that if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten right now, you're winning.
Yeah. Can I give you a fun hypothetical look back? Just because you mentioned 2020 and the 10-game SEC.
You want to do it in a second? You want to do it in a second? Let me give some love to our friends real quick. We've all been there before. A weekend trip to the casino canceled because real life came calling. Well, MyBookie's new and improved online casino is here, and they are ready to change the game. Dive into a truly realistic casino experience featuring the latest in slots, progressive jackpots, live dealer action, all from the comfort of your home. The MyBookie Casino provides a Las Vegas experience when the action is in your hands and you don't even need to wear pants. Brad, you don't need to. Start at MyBookie today with a generous sign-on bonus. Just use promo code NEXTROUND. You get a revamped loyalty program that ensures a host of exclusive VIP perks. The more you play, the more you win, only with MyBookie.ag. All right, Brad, hit us with it.
PFC, baby, pants-free casino. Brings a whole new meaning to the term snake eyes. Listen, you mentioned the 2020 season and the all-conference schedule. This is off topic from what we've been talking about, but I'll just take a couple of minutes just to wrap up the show. Something to think about, chew on for a little while. If Auburn has a standard 8-game SEC schedule and a 4-game non-conference schedule in 2020, is Gus Malzahn still the head coach?
Probably.
Yeah. Or let me put it this way.
We were supposed to play North Carolina that year.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we beat them.
Okay, but you take away 2 conference games.
Sure.
Take away 3 opportunities for, even if you split the 2, let's say that the 2 you take away were split.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts you at, it was 6-4. Now you're 5-3. Plus 3 non-conference wins and a loss. Now you're 8-4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because he didn't get fired, I don't think, because of the success and failures of the 2020 season.
Right.
He got, I think he got let go because this was it. This is just what it was going to be. The feeling was this was what it was going to be every year.
The forward momentum had sort of slowed noticeably.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought about that in a few years. So you kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But probably not. He probably doesn't get let go.
He may not be the coach today, but he survives the 2020 season.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Okay. All right. I've got another fun one that results in Jimbo Fisher being Auburn's head football coach.
I think I've heard this one before. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. We'll cover it another time. All right.
Is that it? Does that do it for today's show?
That's all I got for you today.
Okay, got it.
All right.
What a mic drop.
Listen, I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you very much for watching, subscribing. Very near 3,000 subscribers. So share the show. Tell people about it. We really appreciate you watching and commenting, and look forward to the comments on this one. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.